Hello, everyone. It's an honor to be presenting today. My name is James Fletcher. I'm the founder of Young Investor Society, and I'm also the founder of Ethos Investment Management, which is an asset management fund based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Previously, I've managed $1 billion for APG Asset Management based in Hong Kong. So I'm a professional investor by training. I've now invested in the markets for over 18 years. But my passion and my calling has been financial literacy, and especially teaching financial literacy to teenagers. So how did this start? I guess we'll go all the way back to when I was young. One of my earliest memories is when I was 7 years old. My grandpa took me on his lap. My grandpa was a scientist by career, but his hobby on the side was stock market investing. And some of my earliest memories are sitting on his lap and him showing me the Wall Street Journal and going through the economic news, and also pulling out his brokerage accounts and showing me the stocks he had invested in and why. And ever since those early days, I've had this love of the market. My parents taught me as I was growing up through allowance and budgeting and chores, basic financial literacy. And then really when I was in high school, I read Warren Buffett for the first time, Essays of Warren Buffett. And when I read that, it just resonated so much common sense and wisdom. And, in Warren Buffett, folksy Omaha wisdom, talking about, be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful, and just buy stocks for the long run, and just common sense investing just really resonated with me. And then I started investing on my own and getting really into value investing. I would say I had a personal development when I was 19 years old. I was a Mormon missionary in Brazil. I was called to serve in Brazil for 2 years. I learned Portuguese, and really at that time just fell in love with the Brazilian people and other cultures and other countries around the world, and just had a remarkable experience. So when I came back to university, my university studies, I sort of had this love of financial markets and investing and value investing and Warren Buffett, and also had this love of other cultures and Brazil. And I wanted to, if I was so fortunate to be able to use Portuguese in my career. And that led me to my career, which was international investing. So I graduated in international finance, and was fortunate enough to get a job at a hedge fund in Boston that needed a Latin American analyst, and I was hired and started covering Latin American stocks and researching them. And then very soon thereafter, it was a small fund, started covering Asia as well. So really dove into the Asian markets. We've been living in Hong Kong for the past 5 years, like I said, where I've been managing a $1.2 billion portfolio for APG Asset Management, and just really love travel and other cultures and other markets, and finding great businesses to invest in. The question of how I found my calling really goes back to a letter, and it goes back to a letter that I received in 2016 from a young man named Edgar. So just to tell you the backstory, I was a portfolio manager in Los Angeles. I was managing a mutual fund, but as part of my hobby on the side, I was very active in youth programs. I was a scoutmaster, and I loved working with youth and the next generation. And so I started volunteering at SIFMA's Invest It Forward program, which is linked to the stock market game. So I was going into high schools and talking about the stock market game. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the stock market game is offered to about 1 million high school students per year. and they do a simulated, stock market portfolio over a couple months and try and outperform the market. And then the winners, win a prize and go on to the national level. So as part of that, I would go into classrooms and I would, go in and say, okay, I'm a portfolio manager and I manage stocks for a living. Tell me what's in your stock portfolio and let's talk about investing as a career. And, very frequently the students would say, okay, we're taking as much risk as we possibly can. We're invested in triple leverage ETFs and loss-making biotech companies and just trying to take as much risk as they could over a 3-month period to try and, outperform the market and really, really shoot for the moon. But really, it was teaching sort of a very short term, very high risk gambler's mentality. And every time I'd have to say, whoa, 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 guys, this isn't investing, right? Investing is, what company do you want to be the owner of in 10 years and why? What makes that a good business? What makes you want to own that business 10 years from now? And I went into one school. It was Roy Ball Academy in inner city Los Angeles. And Roy Ball is, in a predominantly Hispanic area of Los Angeles. 99% of the kids spoke Spanish, and it was a very low income community. So I went into Roy Ball and basically same discussion. What's in your portfolio? And then we talked about what investing really means. And I told these kids, I said, I invest in companies in Mexico and throughout South America. And our industry is looking for talented individuals like yourself that speak Spanish, that understand different cultures, different brands, and let's talk about what long-term businesses you would want to be the owners of and how we do that analysis. And just had an amazing visit. After that visit to Roy Ball Academy, I received many letters from students, and one letter was from a young man named Edgar, and he wrote me and he said, Mr. Fletcher, you may think this is a joke, but that 45 minutes has changed my life. He said, no adult has ever visited my classroom before or shown that they cared. And he said, I now have a vision for who I want to become. I want to go to college. I want to go into finance. And that visit has changed my life. And that phrase that Edgar said, no adult has shown that they cared before, just resonated and would not leave my mind. And I said, how many adults are there in the financial community that want to give back, that want to teach kids like Edgar, that want to, give them a hand and a leg up? And I said, let's create an organization that teaches investing the right way, teaches long-term fundamental investing, and also builds that bridge between kids like Edgar. And so I went to someone from Harvard Business School. I went to someone from Merrill Lynch that was retiring. I went to someone from Fidelity. And I said, let's create a program that teaches long-term fundamental investing the right way. And we started Young Investor Society. This was in 2016. That year, I had basically, so the question was, okay, how do we teach high school students investment analysis and stock market fundamentals and make it engaging, make it fun? We looked around, there wasn't really any content out there that sort of met that need. And so every Wednesday night, I had teenagers over to my house. We would sit around my dining room table and I would just teach them a concept. I would teach them, economic moats or industry analysis for competitive advantage for companies. I would teach them growth and how you analyze growth and long-term growth of businesses. I would teach them profitability and margins or PE ratios and all the way to discounted cash flows, models, and intrinsic value analysis. And then at the end, I said, okay, what worked? What didn't? What? And they would just give me feedback, and we piloted that content. And then, by the end of that first year, we had 6 schools that were participating in a stock pitch competition. So we rewarded the analysis and the presentation of the stock research, rather than short-term market performance like the stock market game or other programs. So we're really teaching kids the fundamentals of investment analysis, um, similar to how the CFA Institute has a university challenge for university students. We brought that that competition to the high school level. So at the end of that first year, we had 6 schools participating. They competed. We at the end of that year, we had about 50 lesson plans, which we had written and piloted. And then the next year, we opened it up to the public. So for all teenagers, free. We're a nonprofit. What happened is we hit upon a strong need. So that next year, it grew to 50 schools. Following that, it grew to 150 schools. We added then a large personal finance arm on top of it. So budgeting, personal finance, credit cards, avoiding debt, long-term investments, and added that personal finance content. We added a program called the Dollar a Day Challenge, where basically we match students dollar for dollar. If they're saving and investing $1 a day, they're eligible for a match. So one of the principles that we have at Young Investor Society is don't just teach a concept, build a habit within kids. It's one thing to sit in the classroom and just learn a concept. It's another thing to do it and really creating a habit. So basically for $1 a day, we say, if you'll take the concepts of personal finance and saving and budgeting and start saving $1 a day and write an essay, you're eligible for that $1 a day match. And about a third of our students receive that match of $365 that encourages, and our corporate sponsors are incentivizing teams to start saving and investing. So Young Investor Society, I mean, during those early years, we were attending teacher conferences. We would have teachers lined up at teacher conferences because there were so few courses out there that were teaching stock market investing and fundamentals of analysis and long-term investing for teens, that teachers were just clamoring for it. I'm so grateful for those early teachers that took the time to stay after school and were mentors and advisors to these Young Investor Society students. So it went then from 150 schools, 300 schools, to 500 schools, and then COVID hit in 2019. And what happened there is we had built a lot of online content of videos and built self-learning modules so the kids could learn on their own. And when the pivot happened to online schools and a lot of teens were at home and online, and then you had Robinhood and Reddit really exploding, and a lot of teens were interested in investing. And our program was sort of the program for teenagers that pops up that teaches long-term fundamental principles with a lot of professional investors involved. We just exploded. So we went from 500 schools to 1,000 schools, and now to 1,500 schools. We're in 59 countries around the world. It's about 12,000 students a year that participate in Young Investor Society. And it's just been this amazing journey to see teenagers, take challenging concepts and then just get excited about it, get excited about companies, get excited about investing. And it all started with that letter from Edgar saying no adult has shown that they cared before. And now hopefully we have just an army of financial professionals that are showing kids like Edgar that they care. One of the proudest things about Young Investor Society for me is that from the beginning, it was always about access and reaching, especially low income groups and kids like Edgar. And so we started the Access Initiative, which basically has a lot more hand holding, a lot more support, a lot more sponsorship and scholarships geared toward those in low income communities. And right now, of the 1,500 schools, about 20% are in access communities, our access schools. And there they receive additional support and extra, scholarships and sponsorships for the students, to help them through their, personal finance and investment journey. And that's been one of the proudest, I think, achievements for us is seeing that impact, of kids like Edgar. In 2022, Young Investor Society Access Initiative was awarded the Maya Award globally for the best underserved, financial literacy program in the world. And we're really proud of that because it all started with that letter from Edgar and that focus to really reach those who are most in need. We have so many stories of success, reaching kids like Edgar. There's one that stands out in my mind. A young man named Faizan, was from low to mid income Pakistan, and growing up in difficult circumstances. His parents actually had been swindled into investing into an oil derivative investment scheme and had lost all of their, or the majority of their net worth. After that, sad experience, Faizan was Googling investing and investing for teens, and Young Investor Society popped up, and he started researching it, and then he started a Young Investor Society club at his school in Pakistan. He got really excited, about investing and started researching professional investors and going through the program. And he competed in the, global stock pitch competition, 3 years ago. Or 4 years ago. He won against Asia, and then he was offered a chance to travel to the United States to compete in the global stock pitch competition. He traveled, he fundraised for that trip. It was his first time outside of Pakistan. He went to New York sitting on NASDAQ, and we competed at the NASDAQ, exchange, and against 50 other schools, and Faizan won the whole competition. He was so impressive. We had so many, financial supporters watching him present. He was offered a paid internship, at the end of his presentation. He actually applied to Drexel University after that and was given a full scholarship to Drexel University. And now he's working at a hedge fund in New York. That sort of program and that experience completely changed his life. And we've had, so many stories of kids getting interested in business or accounting or consulting or investing, and then going through Young Investor Society, and that's, allowing them the next stage of, college and career. And those are really exciting to see those life-changing moments in kids. One of the questions we're talked constantly asked about, or what were the biggest challenges or surprises as we've grown Young Investor Society and focused on teaching teens, what are difficult and complex subjects. So what are the biggest challenges? I would say one of the biggest, challenges of talking about money and financial literacy, whether it's in the classroom or the home or any environment, is just overcoming that initial hurdle of that money is a taboo subject, and that it's difficult and complex and uncomfortable to talk about. So we're really trying to just take away that tabooness of money. Our goal is for parents to communicate more openly with kids and teachers to communicate more openly with students. Part of that, I believe, is incorporating financial literacy into the curriculum, for high school students. When we started in 2016 Young Investor Society, there was only 5 states in the United States that required personal finance or financial literacy to be taught at the high school level. Right now, there are 15 states that teach financial literacy as part of the core curriculum. You know, our goal and our hope would be that all 50 states, that this would be required, that all teens learn about basic finance and basic savings, and personal finance is such a crucial topic to be taught to teenagers, whatever subject they go into in the future. There are so many resources out there. Young Investor Society is one of the resources, but our goal is, you know, that to overcome that challenge of just talking about money and making it open to communication. I'd say the second surprise from starting Young Investor Society, and this is a positive surprise, is that is the principle that teenagers rise to the occasion. I think so often we sort of maybe dumb it down for our kids and try and make it easy. And the reality is, and it's the same for my teenagers as well, when we make it too easy of a concept, they just get bored and it's too easy and they don't give it the attention that it deserves. But when we really set the bar high, whether it's athletics or a tough course, and really believe in them and challenge them and set that bar high, the kids rise to the occasion. And I've seen that just time after time with Young Investor Society. We're teaching complex material by the time they get to the end of the courses. And these kids are just rising to it. And the stock presentations are so good. And we offer a CYIA designation, which is the highest level of achievement at Young Investor Society, a certified young investment analyst designation. And this, you know, this requires passing a rigorous test. It requires service opportunities, high GPA. And the reality is these kids rise to the occasion. They want to be challenged. I just have so much hope for this rising generation, whether it's, you know, a young man named like Edgar from a difficult low income circumstance, or any of the rising generation. I've seen them just time and time again surpass expectations, rise to the challenge. It only, you know, requires adults that believe in them, that encourage them, and give them something really to strive for. It reminds me of a young man named Christian Gomez. Christian was from a low income background of Los Angeles area. And he started Young Investor Society. He started applying the principles. He actually made some money in the stock market as he was learning the principles. And he said, okay, what am I going to do with this, you know, with this investment that he had made? And he said, the most valuable thing I can do is invest in my future and my education. And he went to his parents and he said, I need to be in a school district that pushes me and that helps me get into the top college. And this required moving actually to a community that had a better school district. His parents pooled together money. He put in his money. They put money for a down payment on a home, and he helped contribute that to his parents. And they moved to a community called Westlake, California. They had a, you know, he was the president of the Young Investor Society Club in Westlake. Christian ended up being the president of the Young Investor Society Student Advisory Board. So the president of all of the youth leaders of Young Investor Society. He was offered a full ride scholarship to Cal Lutheran College, and now he's the head of their investment club at Cal Lutheran. Again, like Faizan, completely changed his young life. And, you know, so impressive that he had the initiative to take his, you know, financial gains and put them into a down payment of a home so his parents could move to a different community. I'm just so blown away by, you know, next generation of kids. So where do we stand now in terms of financial literacy around the world? we have definitely seen, I have definitely personally seen over the past 6 years, significant growth and moves in the right direction of awareness for financial literacy, awareness for teaching more kids at a young age. At the same time, I think there's so much misinformation out there about, the Reddit culture of investing in GameStop for the short run, or just fear about the stock market and in bear markets like we're going through in 2022. The reality of the stock market machine is that it's investing in corporates for the long run, and you're owners in a diversified set of businesses, and it's been over the past 50, 100 years a very powerful wealth creation machine, but it's not a get rich quickly platform. It's a get rich consistently over the long run, and it's a exercise in personal discipline, personal savings, and but is a wonderful opportunity. The other thing that we tell our young investors is that through the lens of the stock market of, should I buy Tesla, or should I buy GM, or should I buy Amazon.com, you get to learn all sorts of business skills. You get to learn how to read an income statement and a balance sheet, how to understand history and business structure, how to understand management and compensation structures, all the way to how to understand human psychology and behavioral analysis. And through that lens of the stock market, you're really learning so many liberal sciences as well, and as well quantitative analysis. So it's really this remarkable lens that is fun for the kids, fun to understand, and that's our goal, is to demystify it for people. I'd advise any of our viewers out there. Young Investor Society is a free resource. It's free to sign up. It's free to access the materials. Our goal is to demystify money and personal finance and investing concepts to as many people as we can in the world. And the other thing is, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. I'm very active in the community, and I have personally been blessed by amazing mentors and people that believed in me and people that helped me through my career. And so, I'm very involved in messaging on LinkedIn, answering questions, being a resource, and being a mentor to those, or kids of those, that are interested in colleges and finance. So feel free to reach out over LinkedIn, and reach out over Young Investor Society. This has been a wonderful opportunity to speak to you today. Young Investor Society has been a incredibly fulfilling journey for me. And, I always say I get way more out of it than I put in, because I get to learn from the next generation. I get to just be energized by their goodness and their hard work, and seeing them rise, and seeing kids like Faizan and Kristen Gomez and Edgar rise to their full potential. There's really nothing better in the world. So feel free to reach out, and thank you so much for this opportunity.